Daisy picked up the microphone and smiled at the audience. Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce you to Sarah, the sister of our groom, Tommy, and she will give you a wonderful speech. By the way, Sarah comes from a single-parent household and only completed middle school, but she has carved out her life through her own efforts. She will deliver an emotional speech today, and since we have many guests from abroad, she will give her speech in Spanish for everyone to understand. Spanish? Did she just say the speech will be in Spanish? I knew I was asked to give a speech at my brother's wedding, but I wasn't told to do it in Spanish, and I'm not prepared for that. Seeing my confusion, my brother's bride, Daisy, approached me with a malicious grin. Didn't I tell you before? But you will be fine, right? Sarah, you studied Spanish at high school, didn't you? Oops, you graduated from only middle school. Show them what you've got though. I'm sure you can do it, right? So, that was her plan. To put me on the spot and embarrass me in front of everyone. Why would she think of something like this on such a special day? She's so mean! The audience looked at me with curiosity, and whispers began to spread. What's taking so long? Can she really give a speech in Spanish with just a middle school education? I could hear laughter. Well, I have no choice but to do it now. I hesitated for a moment with my English speech in hand, then decided to rip it up and spoke from the heart. Daisy's face turned pale as she listened. My name is Sarah, and I'm 23 years old. I have a brother, and we were raised in a single-parent household. Our family wasn't as well off as others, but thanks to my mother and brother, I enjoyed my days. My brother always scored well on tests with perfect grades. He was kind to me, even though I often had low scores. He was the perfect brother. Every time there was a parent-teacher conference, I was pointed out by the teacher about my barely passing scores in front of my mother, but she never got angry. Sarah, it's okay. Studying isn't everything. You are kind and always cheerful. That's more than enough for me. Growing up surrounded by the love of my mother and brother, I was never overwhelmed by feelings of inferiority due to my academic struggles. Time passed, and my brother became an honor student at the prestigious National University. On the other hand, I barely managed to get into a high school nearby, which was considered a bit below average in terms of academic level. The day I found out about my acceptance, I was chatting happily with my brother in the living room, eating snacks. Sarah, I'm glad for you. You got into an amazing place too, didn't you? Although the day was still chilly, I felt warm and happy. However, the sudden ring of the smartphone erased our joyous moment in an instant. My brother, not recognizing the caller ID, answered the phone. As he spoke with the caller, I could see his expression gradually darkening, and I was overtaken by a sense of unease. It seems Mom has collapsed. We rushed to the hospital and were directed to her room. There, lying in bed with intravenous tubes attached, our mother was conversing with the doctor. The tension and anxiety made me suffocate, but seeing my mother smile, I felt a weight lifted off my chest. Mom, are you okay? Are you really okay? As I approached her, almost in tears, she patted my head, comforting me. Sarah, don't worry too much. I just overexerted myself a bit. I won't die from something as trivial as this. My mother raised my brother and me all on her own. I was well aware of the hardships my mother faced. She was hardly ever home because she worked multiple jobs. Overwork had taken a toll on her health. Hearing that she had collapsed at work and was taken to the hospital was a shock. Up until now, I had taken my mother's presence for granted and realized she had always been our pillar of support. We had led comfortable lives because of her efforts. I strongly felt that I couldn't let her shoulder the burden alone anymore. Before my high school age, I had already started feeling the responsibility to support the family. Hey, I've decided not to go to high school and start working. Maybe then, Mom, there'd be a bit of a break, wouldn't there? I blurted out my decision loudly in the hospital room. My mother and brother looked at me in surprise, and the silence enveloped the room. My brother broke the silence with his words. If Sarah is not going to continue her studies for Mom, then I won't go to college either. We will support Mom together. Thank you, both of you, but please don't worry about me. I want both of you to pursue the path you wish to take. That's my only wish. Mom, the path I want to take is to help you. That's truly what I want to do. I'd be happy if you let me work instead of going to high school. I was more committed to supporting my mother than attending high school. Feeling the strength of my resolve, my mother and brother reluctantly accepted my decision. My brother vowed to help with the family finances once he graduated from college. From that day, I started looking for jobs. Choosing not to go to high school meant that my highest educational attainment was a junior high school diploma. I found job postings that seemed willing to hire someone with my level of education and sent out resumes to all of them. I attended several interviews, but all I received were rejection emails. I was eager to start supporting my mother as soon as possible. Then, one day, a phone call came through. It was a job offer from the company willing to hire me, despite being a junior high school graduate. The call came from the renowned luxury inn, and the position I had applied for was as a live-in attendant. Honestly, I had assumed I wouldn't get this job, so when I received the acceptance call, I was overjoyed and jumped for joy. I wondered what kind of guest would come to luxury inn, and since I would be living there, would I get to eat delicious meals? My heart raced with excitement at the prospect of entering this unfamiliar world. The thought of embarking on this new chapter was thrilling. However, once I started the job, I encountered days much more challenging than I had imagined. My first experience of work was much more demanding than I had expected. On top of that, I had never stayed in an inn or even traveled overnight with my family. I found it challenging to understand what kind of hospitality guests expected and how to serve them to their satisfaction. Determined to learn my role quickly, I worked hard every day. However, my efforts didn't seem to pay off. I faced one setback after another. There were times I mistook guests and led them to the wrong rooms, or spilled meals when tripping over my palms. My clumsiness seemed to hinder me constantly. Adhering strictly to the manual made me appear indifferent, leading to reprimands from guests. Initially, the other attendants, who had been kind, started avoiding me, saying, "Being around her will get us into trouble." Every day, I worked harder than anyone else to understand the job of an attendant, but it took time for my efforts to bear fruit. Sometimes the cold treatment from my colleagues made me want to quit. But whenever that happened, I remembered my mother and drew strength from her. I didn't want to let her down, so I pushed forward. I was determined to persevere in the path I had chosen and to become an attendant who could satisfy every guest, no matter how many mistakes I made. I realized that even working hard, without reflecting, could end up with repeated mistakes. So, I began secretly observing other attendants to see how they interacted with guests and took notes on what I thought was effective. After work, I would review my notes and practice my service techniques, imagining I was serving guests. I also practiced moving around with unfamiliar palm shoes to get better at serving meals in them. After work, I often practiced alone in places with a sight of people, mumbling to myself. At first, some people seemed to worry that I had gone mad. However, my consistent practice began to show result. The number of mistakes I made decreased, and I received more praise from guests. The attendants who initially kept their distance started treating me kindly again, recognizing my efforts. With the support of my colleagues, I found the courage to face challenges. Then, on one of my days off, my brother, who was job hunting, invited my mother and me to a high-end restaurant saying he had a bit of news. My mother and I, thinking he might announce something major like an engagement, waited anxiously. He then shared that he had secured a position at the top-tier international company. Filled with joy, we forgot about our surroundings and exclaimed loudly, "Congratulations!" I felt proud of my brother's success. "Sarah, sorry for the troubles until now. As promised, I will support the household too. And we have to let Mom relax a bit after everything we've put her through. I've told you not to worry about me. Oh, you too. But thank you. You've both grown up so well." My mother smiled, hiding tears, she seemed. At that moment, I resolved to work even harder for her. Once my brother began working, it seemed to alleviate my mother's burdens. We had more time together as a family, enjoying many happy days. One day, amidst this happened. My brother brought more good news. He was getting married. He had met his fiancée through work. Given that my brother worked at the top-tier company, I imagined his fiancée must be quite accomplished as well. I'd always admired the idea of having sister, so the prospect of gaining an exceptional brother and sister thrilled me. Alongside my excitement and admiration, I also felt a surge of nervous anticipation. For someone who had always dreamed of having an older sister, this was truly a special moment. The day for the gathering of both families approached quickly. To my astonishment, the venue for the gathering was the luxury inn where I worked, a place loved by celebrities, Nobel Prize-winning scholars, and renowned surgeons from around the world. It's a place with a solemn atmosphere where visitors can heal their minds and bodies and forget their daily lives. That's probably why my talented brother and his fiancée chose this location. Even though I was familiar with the place, I was very nervous about the event of both families meeting at my workplace. "Sarah, you look really nervous. Are you okay?" "Are you alright? Just relax. It's not like you're the one getting married." I noticed I was sitting with tense shoulders and clenched fists, and my hands were drenched in sweat. Realizing I wasn't the main focus, I laughed and said, "Right, of course." And as I was waiting for the fiancé's family, I heard a young woman's voice from behind. Turning around, there stood a tall, slender, and beautiful woman. Her hair was a gorgeous brown bob cut. Upon closer inspection, she had a long, elegant neck. I was taken aback by her beauty, as if she stepped right out of the story, and found myself staring at her with my mouth agape. "Hello, you must be Sarah. Tommy's sister, right? You seem nervous. Are you okay? Thank you for today." She said that with a smile. Her warm smile calmed my heart. To my astonishment, this woman was my brother's fiancée, soon to be my sister-in-law, Daisy Jackson. Daisy met my brother through each other's company, where they both were in charge of the same project. I heard she graduated from Stanford University and is very accomplished. I was so overwhelmed by Daisy's beauty that I couldn't take my eyes off her. Every time she noticed me, she would give a comforting smile. I thought she must be a really kind person. "Hey, Sarah, are you listening?" I jumped in surprise. "What's wrong, Sarah? You seem very tense." "Oh, sorry, it's just... You're so beautiful, Daisy." Her smile eased the tension in the conversation. It seemed my brother had a favor to ask me. Sarah, there's something I want to ask you. What? What's up? We're thinking of having our wedding here, at the place where you've been working so hard. Really? Seriously? Yeah, actually, many of the guests attending our weddings are foreigners. This place has a traditional Spanish garden, so they can experience the beauty of Spain. Don't you think? I believe it's a place everyone would appreciate. What do you think? I see. That's a great idea. Okay, I will check with the manager later. Thank you, Sarah. We appreciate it. Excited about my brother's proposal, I felt elated. Heading to the restroom, I was immersed in joy all by herself. Holding my brother's wedding in such a beautiful place was a splendid idea. I was thrilled at the thought of helping make my brother's special day memorable. As I touched up her makeup in the restroom, I daydreamed about my brother's future. In my imagination, my brother's happy face appeared, and I was filled with happiness. Just then, I was suddenly addressed from behind. Hey, Sarah! When I looked in the mirror, I saw Daisy standing there. Her voice was much lower than before, and just by the voice, I couldn't identify her. Startled, I turned around to find her staring at me with a displeased expression. What's with you? I noticed you've been staring at me. Is there something about my face that bothers you? Realizing that I'd been unconsciously gazing at Daisy, I felt a rush of embarrassment. Recognizing that my behavior could be perceived as rude, I tried to explain as I turned towards her. I'm sorry, you're just so beautiful, and I couldn't help but... Haha, Sarah, seriously, you're so clueless. It's funny. Taken aback by Daisy's unexpected words, I responded in a dumbfounded voice. Was this the same Daisy I had met earlier? By the way, are you guys really siblings? You're so different. Tommy has been top-notch since he was young, but what about you? A dropout working as a hotel maid. He is handsome and matches my beauty, but you're just average. Plain, even. I was expecting a beautiful sister, but you're way below that. Hilarious. I was taken aback by Daisy's sudden words. She verbally attacked me with harsh words. What's with that blank expression on your face? It's honestly laughable. You look so uneducated. Tell me, are you really related to Tommy by blood? What? What are you talking about? It's just that you don't resemble Tommy at all. Neither in brains nor looks. Something's off. Could it be that you're actually your mother's child from a previous relationship? Raised by a single mother, right? Both you and your mother look shabby. I bet Tommy's real father got sick of it all and left them. That's why you don't resemble Tommy at all. Makes sense. Daisy smirked at me, mocking the difference between me and my brother. I felt anger towards her for making fun of our single parents' family. Insulting my mother was something I could never forgive, regardless of the reason. Look, you can mock me all you want, but please stop insulting my mother. No matter if you're my brother's fiancé, I can't tolerate that. In anger, I couldn't help but raise my voice at Daisy. In response, Daisy stepped forward and retorted with arms crossed. Oh, a high school dropout is talking back to me? You're the kind that really gets on my nerves. Having someone as uneducated as you as my sister-in-law is the biggest stain on my life. Can you, at least for the wedding, pretend to be someone else? Preferably even after that. It's so embarrassing to have a dropout in my family. Daisy then walked out of the bathroom, her heels clicking against the floor. Why do I have to hear such things? What did I do wrong? I never expected my brother to choose someone like her. As I returned to my room with a heavy heart, I saw Daisy, who had returned before me, gesturing for me to come over. "Sarah, dear, hurry, hurry! I've been waiting for you. I have something important to discuss." Contrary to the scene in the bathroom, Daisy switched back to her charming persona, looking like a completely different person as she welcomed me. Can people really change this drastically? I felt a mixed emotion of disgust and unease as I returned to my seat. And once she made sure I was seated, Daisy began to speak. "Actually, I have another favor to ask," Daisy said in a teasing manner, gradually shifting her gaze to everyone present. I was taken aback and puzzled by the unexpected words from Daisy. She assailed me with harsh words even more. With a radiant smile, she looked eager to say something, and our eyes met. I could swear her smile turned slightly malicious. "Actually, I was thinking of asking lovely Sarah, who's going to be my wonderful sister, to give a speech as a surprise." This request was entirely unexpected. I was so shocked that time seemed to stand still for a moment. But I wasn't the only one surprised. My brother also looked equally puzzled. "Huh? Sarah giving a speech?" His voice was tinged with the same astonishment and confusion as mine. "Haha, sorry, Tommy. Actually, I asked Sarah earlier in the restroom. She said she wanted to do something for you, so I thought maybe she could give a speech." Daisy went on talking nonsense without any basis. Before I knew it, I was lost in her words. When I came to my senses, Daisy was smiling confidently, and my brother was looking at me in agreement. "Are you sure? I'd be happy to hear Sarah's speech." Yeah, it's for you after all." Seeing how genuinely happy my brother looked, I decided to accept this request. Yes, giving a speech for my brother is a wonderful thing. I had no idea what Daisy was thinking, but I decided to go along with her proposal for the time being. Some time passed since that day, and the wedding day finally arrived. Thanks to the meticulous planning, the ceremony was progressing smoothly. This being my first wedding attendance, I was nervous. My heart was racing, more from worrying about the speech than the occasion itself. Clenching my fists like during the family gathering, my palms were sweaty. My throat was dry. I tried to drink some water, but my hands were so shaky I couldn't even grip the glass. But I'll be fine. I have to be. I remembered the speech practice I had gone through. "Congrats on your brother's marriage, Sarah. You'll be giving a speech soon, right? Good luck." "Yes, thank you." "Don't be so nervous. I'm sure you will deliver a fantastic speech, Sarah. You've practiced hard every day. Trust me. Gather your courage and go for it." The veteran maid, who always dotes on me, gently tapped my back. At first, I practiced my speech in secret all by myself. But soon, my friends found out and began helping me. Thanks to them, I became confident enough to give a speech in front of about 10 people. However, considering the size of this wedding and the thought of speaking in front of hundreds, even with the encouragement from the veteran maid, I couldn't shake off my nerves. I felt the sweat dripping from my hands. And then, the moment for the special performance arrived. "Ladies and gentlemen, the moment you've all been waiting for has arrived." As Daisy's voice echoed throughout the venue, she suddenly stood up and walked towards me. I was full of nervousness. She took my hand and led me to the stand microphone. Daisy placed her hand on my shoulder, leaned in, and began speaking into the microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen, up next is a touching speech from the groom's sister, Sarah. In fact, Sarah grew up in a single-parents household. She gave up on high school and began working at this wonderful inn right after middle school. She lives here and works hard every day to support her only family member, her mother." Without my asking, Daisy went on and on about my personal history. It felt like she was making fun of my past and family situation. Her words sounded like she was trying to make a touching story, but there was a mocking tone that angered me. Despite her youth, Sarah has faced many hardships. You can imagine how challenging her life has been, especially since she graduated from only middle school. Moreover, for our guest from abroad, she will deliver her speech in Spanish. Go ahead, Sarah. Spanish? Why did I have to give speech in Spanish? I was puzzled. Oh, Sarah, I might have forgotten to mention, but it's alright. You've been caught up in many hardships, so you can handle it this time too, right? Daisy said with a hint of mockery. Everyone was looking at me, expecting me to give the speech in Spanish. While I stood frozen, Daisy spoke with a malicious grin on her face. Sarah has a wealth of experience dealing with guests from foreign countries at this inn. Today, we have many guests from abroad as well. I'm sure her experiences in this culturally diverse inn will aid her in delivering the speech. So I asked Sarah to take on this little challenge. It shouldn't be a problem, right? Indeed, this inn often welcomed guests from abroad. I had also heard that many of the guests invited for the wedding were foreigners. But I had never imagined that I would have to give a speech in Spanish on such a special day. Did Daisy really plan such a cruel surprise for me? It's infuriating how she would try to put me in such an embarrassing situation on such a significant day. What was she thinking? A wave of anxiety and nervousness washed over me in an instant. Looking at my brother, he too seemed deeply concerned. The invited guests appeared confused, gazing at me. I heard some murmurs. Just get on with it. Can a middle school graduate really speak Spanish? Cold sweat dripped down my entire body. What should I do? Time was running out. In the whirlwind of confusion inside my head, I wondered how I could possibly give a speech in Spanish in front of such a large crowd. Sarah, don't give in. Gather your courage. Suddenly, the voice of the veteran maid echoed throughout the hall. Stand up straight and take a deep breath. Following her advice, I straightened up and took a deep breath. At that moment, I felt like I regained control over myself. I felt confident that I could deliver a fitting speech for the occasion. That's the spirit. Go on, Sarah. You can do it. I'm cheering for you. In response to her words, my co-workers sent cheers of encouragement. Their warm voices of support pushed me forward, instilling in me the belief that I could meet their expectations. I took a deep breath and began my speech in Spanish. Although it was my first time giving an impromptu speech, I decided to convey my true feelings. Just as she says, I am not an intelligent person. However, thanks to the immense love and support from my mother and brother, I have made it this far. I'm overjoyed to be part of such an important event as my brother's wedding. When I first heard that my esteemed brother was getting married, I was thrilled. I was eager to meet the wonderful woman he had chosen. But on the day we met, my hopes were quickly belied. The phrase belied caused a ripple of surprise and murmurs throughout the hall. Despite this, I confidently continued my speech. I relayed the disparaging remarks, which were done secretly in the restroom, Daisy made about my mother and me. The ambience in the hall was palpable with empathy for me, and I continued my speech in Spanish with composure. Nevertheless, she is the woman our beloved brother chose. From the bottom of my heart, I genuinely hope for his happiness. Bro, we might miss you, but please visit home once in a while. Mama and I will always be waiting. In the end, with deep emotion towards my brother, I conveyed my gratitude. I felt tears welling up. However, throughout the speech, I was oddly filled with joy. When I finished, there was a moment of silence before the hall erupted into massive applause. The beaming smiles of my mother and brother, coupled with clapping from those surprised by my Spanish speech, filled the venue. On the other hand, Daisy looked crestfallen, her misdeeds now exposed to everyone. It was a situation she brought upon herself. Glancing around the hall, I noticed guests from the Asian region. I then gave a speech in Chinese and Korean. The hall was electrified, with even more applause and cheers, turning into the standing ovation. Daisy, taken aback by my sudden multilingual speech, had a face that couldn't hide her astonishment and frustration. She clenched her dress tightly and gritted her teeth. The rich environment of this upscale inn had significantly influenced my acquisition of many languages. This inn is renowned in Asia, attracting numerous foreign tourists. As a result, the staff is very diverse, with people from Thailand, China, and Korea working together. They were all aware of my recent obsession with K-pop idols. In particular, a Korean innkeeper taught me Korean. Initially, I couldn't understand Korean at all, but the innkeepers kindly taught me, and we enjoyed learning together by watching YouTube videos. This teaching environment greatly contributed to the improvement of my language skills. After a while, I was able to understand the conversations of idols and not only Korean, but also other languages. Of course, this skill also helped me in my job, and it became natural to use multiple languages on a daily basis. After the venue was filled with applause, I looked at Daisy with a confident expression. Then she approached me with a demonic expression, grabbed my collar, brought her face closed with anger, and began to shout, "Hey, what have you done to me?" A lot of her spit flew onto my face. She turned beet red and shook me vigorously. However, beyond her anger, her expression looked more like someone who was humiliated. "Why did you reveal what happened on the day in front of everyone?" I was about to speak, but at that moment, my brother grabbed Daisy's shoulder from behind and shouted, "Daisy, aren't you the one in the wrong?" I was truly shocked by my brother's anger. My brother was always calm and kind, and this was the first time I had seen him so furious. "Daisy, how do you explain what Sarah said? You didn't ask for a Spanish speech that day, did you? And on that day, was the attitude true that you spoke as if you were mocking Sarah and our mother?" My brother confronted Daisy, shaking with anger. Daisy was speechless for a while, but unable to bear my brother's stern gaze and the loud boos from the audience, she finally spoke. "Yes, it's true, because it's not a match. I can marry a brilliant man like Tommy, but the sister-in-law is a just middle school graduate. It's a shame for me. Tommy is handsome and highly educated, but what about the sister? She's neither pretty nor smart. She's out of place." Daisy ran it and raved, and eventually collapsed from exhaustion. Boos erupted from the venue once again. "What? Making me bad guy with everyone? Aren't you all stupid? It's because of a sister like you. If only you weren't there." However, as Daisy tried to lunge at me again, a sharp slap echoed through the hall. Hesitantly, I opened my eyes to see that my brother had slapped Daisy. "Daisy, even after hearing Sarah's impromptu speech, you still think this way?" My brother looked disappointed, his shoulders shaking. "Daisy, the primary reason Sarah and I have grown so much is because of our mother. Did you not hear Sarah's speech? She's a hard worker, just like our mom, and she's as brilliant as I am. Can't you understand that?" With tears streaming down his face, my brother hoped Daisy would understand his feelings. However, Daisy turned red and was speechless. "Daisy, I never imagined you'd behave this way. Haven't I always told you how important family is to me? I thought you understood. What a shame." My brother took a deep breath, as if to confirm his feelings, and continued. Daisy, I'm sorry, but I think we need to reconsider our marriage. Daisy looked up in shock at his words. Tears streaming down, she collapsed to her knees and clung to him, pleading desperately. Tell me, please, anything but that. Please forgive my mistakes. It was all my fault. Even if Sarah isn't the brightest and is a single-parent family, I promise to cherish both of them. Please rethink this decision, anything but that. She clung to my brother, begging him. Although it was a result of her own doing, her words lacked genuine remorse. But my brother's determination was unwavering, and Daisy's words no longer reached him. A few days later, my brother decided to call off the engagement with Daisy. The separate apologies and pleas came from both Daisy and her parents, but he never retracted the previous statement. He believed that words are a reflection of a person's true thought, and they rarely change at their core. Furthermore, the fact that my mother and I were hurt by Daisy's words was undeniable. My brother felt her comments weren't something that could simply be forgiven with an apology. For a while, he looked lonely, but he assured us that our family bond was more important than anything. Later, I heard Daisy had to resign from her company. According to Daisy's colleagues who attended the wedding, the disparaging words Daisy heard uttered about me and my mother, as well as her interaction with my brother during the celebration, became the talk of the office. Consequently, she faced backlash and criticism from her coworkers. This made her workplace unbearable, prompting her to decide to resign on her own accord. But there is an even more surprising twist awaiting me. About a week later, I received a call from my brother. He informed me that the manager from the company where Daisy had previously worked had attended the wedding. This manager had heard my speech and expressed a strong desire to scout me for their firm. When I discussed the offer with my supervisors and colleagues at the inn that had taken care of me, everyone encouraged me to take this new step in my career. They wholeheartedly said, "Go for it," and pushed me forward. With a heart full of gratitude, I bid farewell to the inn that had nurtured me and joined the company where Daisy had previously worked. While Daisy could only speak English, I was recognized for multilingual skills in the company. Thanks to my experience in hospitality at the inn and mastering multiple languages, I managed to make a fresh start in a vibrant workplace, capitalizing on my past. I have never regretted my decision to give up higher education to support my family and join the workforce with just a middle school education. It's true that there are people like Daisy who judge others' salary based on educational qualifications and look down on these with less formal education. However, I firmly believe that experiences matter more in life than academic degrees. Gaining a wealth of experiences has broadened my horizons and enriched my life. Moving forward, I hope to continue embracing various experiences without becoming overly intellectual and to apply the wisdom from these experiences in my daily life.